So the first thing, now we want to formalize this learning. तो अब हम पहले खुद पे क्वेश्चन करते हैं कि ओके व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय लर्निंग, हम लोग कैसे सीखते हैं. तो इफ यू टेक ए ह्यूमन, अगर हम ह्यूमंस की बात करें तो ह्यूमंस कैसे सीखते हैं, हाउ डू ह्यूमंस लर्न. सो ह्यूमंस हैव टू डू सम टास्क. ओके, फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी तुम मेरे से कोई मशीन लर्निंग चीज पढ़ रहे हो, दिस बेसिकली लर्निंग इज अ टास्क. तो हम वो चीज कर रहे हैं, मतलब हम कोई चीज सीखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. सो द टास्क एट हैंड मे बी, फॉर एग्जाम्पल, वी आर लर्निंग टू ईट. ए स्मॉल किड और ए स्मॉल चाइल्ड, वो एक बच्चा सीख रहा है कि खाना कैसे है. लेट्स से दिस इज द टास्क. द फर्स्ट थिंग इज he'll walk or he'll eat some things, or if he is learning to walk, these are two tasks at hand, eating or walking. If human wants to learn these things, तो वो क्या करेगा. So from the first thing is he has a task defined. अब वो now he'll perform some steps, do go here and there, so he'll gain some experience. Okay, so जब हम कोई चीज करते हैं, for example if I have to eat, first I'll try, okay ये हाथ में मैं कैसे ले लूँ मैं, should I take the spoon, so I have to make some decisions. Okay, spoon लेना है, हाथ से खाना है. Okay, then I'll say probably my hand is better. So I actually have an experience, I did something, some random thing, and then based on that I got some experience. और फिर मैं वो एक्सपीरियंस मेजर करता हूँ, डिड आई बिकेम बेटर एट दैट थिंग. अगर तुम बच्चे को देखो खाना खाते हो, वो बहुत सारा खाना गिराता है, बट एज टाइम प्रोग्रेसेस वो ज्यादा सीखता है इन चीजों के बारे में, तो व्हाट उसके बाद वो कम खाना गिराता है. विद द टाइम ही गेट्स एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ हाउ टू ईट इफेक्टिवली. एंड देन इफ फॉर एग्जाम्पल ऑल ऑफ अस आर एडल्ट्स एंड वी प्रॉब्ली डोंट स्प्रेड द फूड, तो हमारे पास बहुत ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस आ गया है कि हम लोग खाना अच्छे से खा पाते हैं. तो दैट्स हाउ एक्चुअली कंप्यूटर्स, दिस इज द डेफिनेशन बाय मिशेल. He's a really good computer scientist. He gave this definition to formalize it. He said a computer program is set to learn from experience E. I'll just highlight these terms. A computer program learns with the experience. We will call that experience E. Similar as the human learns with experience, a computer also learns with the experience. With respect to some class of tasks T, as the computer is doing some tasks, as I said कि human भी जो task कर रहा है, let's call it task T. With experience, we learn some task T and a performance measure P, because we have to now measure the performance. कि सही में बेटर, अभी मैंने क्या चीज बताई यहाँ, परफॉर्मेंस जो हमारे ईटिंग में कौन सा परफॉर्मेंस था, कि हम लोग खाना कितना गिरा रहे हैं, प्रॉब्ली द वे ऑफ ईटिंग. आई से जितना खाना कम गिरेगा, दैट मीन्स कि आवर परफॉर्मेंस इज इंप्रूविंग. अगर वो ज्यादा गिरा रहा है, दैट मीन्स आवर परफॉर्मेंस इज डिक्रीजिंग. ओके, एंड द डेफिनेशन इज दैट a computer program is set to learn from experience E with respect to some class of tasks T and performance measure P. तो इन चीजों को मद्देनजर रखते हुए, अगर तो उसकी परफॉर्मेंस जो है वो इंक्रीज हो, वो इस टास्क पे, यानी कि परफॉर्मेंस विद एक्सपीरियंस जो है वो इंक्रीज हो रही है. सो बाय सिंपली वर्ड्स आई मीन, if with the time if I am measuring something by a performance factor P at on some task T, अगर वो एक्सपीरियंस E के साथ साथ उसका परफॉर्मेंस बढ़ता जा रहा है, then we said that this program or this human is learning. This is the formal definition basically. This is the formal definition. That it'll take you some time to read it again then go through it. I just gave the example of humans. अगर एक बच्चा जो है वो खाना खाना चाहे, the task at hand is that he wants to eat something. The performance measure कि हम measure कैसे करेंगे कि ये जो बच्चा ये खाना खाना सीख रहा है, so we'll have कि ये खाना कितना गिरा रहा है. एक्सपीरियंस क्या है कि वो कितना टाइम ले रहा है उस चीज को करने में. सिमिलर थिंग विद द ह्यूमंस. सो इट इज सेड दैट अगर हम कोई टास्क रिपीटेडली कर रहे हैं, सो विद द एक्सपीरियंस E, इफ देयर इज अ डिफरेंस इन द परफॉर्मेंस P on the task T, then we said that this is learning in the formal sense. Am I clear with this? Everybody understood? Now we have to define what this experience means. In tutorial I told you कि experience का क्या मतलब होता है, what is this task and what is this performance measure. Now we have to actually go dig deeper into these things कि experience क्या चीज है, task क्या होता है, performance measure हम कैसे करते हैं machines में. So all of these has to be formalized. I told you we have to formalize things in order to make machines understand things. तो हम लोग को machines को समझाना है कि कैसे कैसे ये चीजें हो रही है. Okay, so now we'll go at what this task T means. So first thing is what is the meaning of a task. If I ask you कि ये एक काम क्या होता है, so if you see that we can say a walking, if somebody wants to walk, it's a task. If somebody is driving a car, driving is a task. If somebody is eating, act of doing something basically, act of doing something which requires some attention or something like that, I can call it a task, I can call it a work. For example, as I said, gave the examples कि चलना एक task है, खाना एक task है. There are different tasks that we do on day-to-day life. And even we can say act of doing work is also something. Like, we don't want to go into the philosophical debates though, but I think you understood what is meaning by the other task. In the machine learning sense, there are also tasks. The first task that we have is classification. If you see, classification का क्या मतलब होता है कि we have to classify something. As we saw, अगर हमारे पास pictures दी जाए dogs and cats की, the thing that we are asked is identify which is a dog and which is a cat. Spam filter, कौन सा mail spam है, which thing is spam, which thing is no spam, and which are dogs, which are cats. There are some classes of the things that we want to identify. ये एक task है. Task at hand is that we want to identify something. Let's go into details of this classification now. Okay, so by classification what I mean, there is a set of classes. For example, अगर हम dogs और cats के बारे में देखा जाए तो वहाँ पे दो classes हमारे पास है, dogs comma cats. तो हमारे पास task in hand था. Task यहाँ पे ये था कि we have to identify dogs and cats से कि image को identify करो. Then in this email वाला filter we had spam or no spam. हमारे पास ये था कौन सी email है जो spam है और कौन सी email जो which is no spam. And then there are other activities. For example, अगर हम hand written कोई ऐसे लिख रहा है 1, 2, 5, 6 तो हमें ये hand written digits है ये recognize करने होते हैं. Then we have 10 classes in that. हमारे पास एक class 1, 2, 3 up to 9 and 0. तो ये सारी classes है basically. Because if I give you a digit, so you have to tell me which digit is it. If I write something like this, you will be easily able to identify that this is a 9. So this is the problem of classification. Okay. So in this classification, we are given some data. So this data will formalize it. What is actually data? We'll also formalize this. And then this data we have to actually come up with some machine, with something. Let's call that machine a function. I won't go into much mathematics because I don't assume any background. So we have some data and we feed that data into some function, and then this function should be able to come up with the class. Which class does this data belong to? As I said, in cats and dogs you have to say whether it's a cat or a dog. In the spam you have to say whether it's a spam or no spam. In the example of digits where you have 10 digits, the example at your hand is you will be given a digit and asked कौन सा digit है ये, 1 से लेके 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 0 कौन सा digit है ये. That's the task. So basically we are learning this function. Okay. So in the mathematical terms, if I write it, so हम ऐसे लिखते हैं function which takes Rn. Rn मतलब होता है कि जिसमें n input features हो, and it will give me some input of 1 to a, 1 to k. K means like there are k classes. Okay, from this we have two types, broadly two types. The first thing is we have binary classification. I'm going really bare bone basics. I don't expect you to know anything. That's why I'm touching this term. And these are the fundamental building blocks. These things we'll be using. In the next session, I won't be telling you what I mean by binary classification, what I mean by this and that. So I'll assume that you are paying full attention here and taking the notes as well. So in the binary classification, we have two classes. So if you see this dogs and cats, this is a binary classification problem. If you see this spam or no spam, this is a binary classification task we are saying it. Okay. Then we have multi-class classification. Evident from the name. For example, if we have to recognize the digits, there is a multi-classification problem because there are multiple classes. Formally, if I have to write this is a function which takes some input. Okay, it gives the output either 0 or 1. Maybe 0 or 1 means like 0 means dogs, 1 means cats, 0 means spam, 1 means no spam. So but this multi-classification is, it takes some input data, okay, and it gives the example of K. This is called K class classification problem. So we have K classes in here. K outcomes are possible. So this F is a function. Rn, I'll define that when I go into mathematical details. What I mean by this Rn, there are features of the data. So I think I'm clear with the classification. There's a binary classification and a multi-class classification. In the binary, the out classes, there are only two output classes. There are either 0 or 1 class. For example, cat, dog, spam, no spam, good, bad, yes, no, things like that. Okay. And similar thing, if you have to see multi-class classification, we have to detect some multiple things. For example, if we are given images of cats, dogs, tigers, cows, buffaloes, and we are asked, okay, detect this, then it will become a multi-classification problem. We'll take data and it will belong to one of the classes. So this is what I meant by the classification. So for the first task that we defined is the task of classification. Okay. while taking this data, because we have to collect this data, sometimes we have missing inputs in this data. For example, अगर मेरे पास एक image है, if you see what is an image basically, let's just digress for a bit to understand what do we mean by data, because we'll be using data term continuously. Okay, what is the meaning of the data? Data, I can say it's a set of features. Set of features. For example, if you ask me, if I talk about myself, data regarding me maybe, for example, what is my name, okay, what is my age, okay, and then my sex, and then probably some related things regarding me, where I am, my residence, my parentage, and things like that. So for example, let me say these are the features. This name is a feature, this age is a feature, this sex is a feature, residence is a feature, parentage is a feature. So all these set of features, they constitute a data point. So if somebody asks me what is data, data is nothing but basically some information. What is information? It is some set of features. What are features? Then you can give the example. These are the features. Let's take some other example. If you take example of a sentence, I have in the sentence I have words. So in that, words are features. For example, I have there is a bus. So here we have 4 words. So these 4 are the features of the sentence. So this sentence, this actually is a data point. One sentence is a one data point. Okay. So data basically means set of features. So features, you can break them into any features. And in the task, here we should have domain expertise. Domain expertise, by that I mean, अगर तुम कोई problem solve कर रहे हैं medical domain में, as somebody just said that we detect heart disease by using machine learning. So heart disease में वो ये पता होना चाहिए कि किन किन चीज़ों से heart disease होता है. For example, we'll see blood pressure levels, then we'll see cholesterol levels, then we'll see sex, then we'll see age. तो ये सारे feature एक patient के बारे में हम ले लेंगे. Then we'll feed this to machine learning model, and then we'll predict that कि एक patient को cancer है कि नहीं. All these things are features. Okay, these things are features. And set of these features, जब हम एक value देते हैं इनको, then we call that a data point. So इसमें domain knowledge होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. So for example, if I have to solve some problem in biology, I should go to a biologist to ask him कि तुम कौन कौन से features देखते हो इन चीज़ों में. Okay? So by data I mean there is a set of features. अगर तो ये feature for example दो features है. For example, I'll just say name and sex. And let's suppose कि ये name, this can be a string. ये तो alphabet होगा. It will be in the English alphabet, or probably age will be a number. Sex can also be a number, because male female we can represent that as 0 and 1. Okay, similar thing in that. So if it is a number, so here you can see I wrote something as R2. R2 means that each data point has had 2 features, and the value of those features are real numbers. Okay, that all of these things we will learn in metrics, but here I am saying you कि अगर मेरे पास चलो एक if I am talking about a person, let's take 2 features of a person. उसके पास पहला feature, for example, let's say age, and sex. Second feature is sex. Age is a number. Age is a number, and sex is also a number. By number I mean 1 means male and 0 means female. Let's say age is a number. So I can to determine any person, I can say, for example, if I write age and sex, so here I can make a table like this. If somebody has a age 25 and he's a female and she's a female, if somebody has age 26 and he's a male, something like this. So each of this is a data point. In order to represent each of these data point, I can write 25,0 like this. This represents a data point. I can write 26,1. This is a data point. So that's why in nutshell I'll write it like this: R2. The data points belong to R2. That means each feature is a real valued feature. Each feature takes a real value, and then there are 2 such features. If I write Rn, what's the meaning? That each feature is a real valued feature, and data point has n features. Am I clear with what is the meaning of data in our sense, in the machine learning sense? What is the meaning of the data? When I speak of the data, you should get this thing into your head. Oh, he's speaking about some features. There will be some features, and these features will take some values. Some features will take some real number values. Some features will take strings as their values, like a name, residence. Some features will take some symbols as values, or something like that. This is what I mean by data. Okay. So why did I make you this? Because in this thing we had classification with missing values. So because when we collect this data, because data collection is the first process, अगर हमें कोई machine learning चीजें करनी है, तो the first thing that we have to learn is We have to see data, हमें data से सीखना है. So sometimes when we get this data, there are some missing values. अगर हमारे पास कार का डेटा है, फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर हम कार का टेम्परेचर चेक कर रहे हैं एंड देन प्रॉब्ली हम लोग कुछ और चीजें चेक कर रहे हैं कि उसका शाफ्ट पावर कितना है एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट, एंड समटाइम्स वो सेंसर ही बैठ गया एंड देन वी आर अनेबल टू गेट द डेटा. यू अंडरस्टैंड माई पॉइंट. एंड समटाइम्स क्या हुआ कि वो सेंसर जिसे हम डेटा लेना स्टार्ट कर रहे थे वो सेंसर बैठ गया. इन द केस ऑफ ह्यूमंस, इफ वी टेक द डेटा बेस्ड ऑन जो उन्होंने घड़ी पहन रखी होती है रिस्ट पे, स्मार्ट बैंड्स, फिटबिट्स एंड थिंग्स लाइक दैट, समटाइम्स ह्यूमंस विल जस्ट रिमूव दैट बैंड एंड ही वोंट फॉर एग्जाम्पल वेयर दैट बैंड फॉर सर्टन टाइम. तो उसके लिए उस टाइम तक हमारे पास डेटा होगा नहीं. तो we'll have data and we'll have a task that हमें classification करनी है, but some data points there will be missing values for some features. So we have to deal this classification as well. That's why there are different algorithms. How do we deal with this classification with missing points? Classification with missing inputs. There will be probably some inputs will be there and there will be some missing inputs. So we have to find those functions कि हम इनको अब कैसे map करें. Okay, like these things are sort of similar because in both the things we are doing classification, but here we have some missing values or missing inputs we have in the second setting. We'll deal with this problem as well. I'm just in that section because we are trying to understand this definition. If you see, so we had three terms here. We had the first is task, then we wanted to see what is the meaning of performance and what is the meaning of experience. We want to see, like in the machine learning context, what is the meaning of task. The first task we saw is that the task can be a classification type. We had to classify, and then we saw there is this binary classification, multi-class classification. In the classification then itself, we saw there can be classification with the missing values or missing inputs. I'll say कि वहाँ पे कोई किसी device ने data लेना बंद कर दिया. There are some improper values as well. The second thing is there a regression task एक होता है. What I mean by regression is, I'll just write it here. Regression. Till now I told you I had set of classes जो मुझे detect करनी थी. So I had the set of classes. In case of dog and cat I had 2 classes. In case of handwritten digits, so I had 10 classes. तो मेरे पास 10 classes थी total में. ऐसे ही अगर मैं example लूँ dog and cat वाले example, तो उसमें मेरे पास दो classes थे. But there are sometimes predictions, classification based models जहाँ पे ये value जो है it can be uncountable infinite. By that I mean, for example, temperature can range from anywhere to anywhere. Basically, like theoretically speaking, temperature can range from -infinity to infinity. We can have any sort of temperature. तो अगर मुझे prediction करना है कि कल को कितना temperature होगा, it does not have specific class. It can be 25, it can be 25.1. It can be 22.02, it can be 21.05, something like that. So can you see that here we don't have number of classes. तो यहाँ पे क्या है, एक continuous value ले लेता है. So we call it continuous range. हमारे पास यहाँ पे continuous range है. So when you are predicting something, तो हमारे पास classes नहीं है basically. हमारे पास अब ये नहीं है कि हमारे पास सिर्फ 2 classes, हमारे पास 10 classes, हमारे पास 20 classes, नहीं. हमारे पास अब range of values है. It can be anything. Basically we have infinite values. तो हम ये क्लासिफिकेशन भी करना चाहते हैं. एंड जस्ट गिव एन एग्जांपल, टेम्परेचर प्रिडिक्शन, even age is also a regression problem. Why? Because age can be from 0 to anything. Age can be to infinity. I'm not just speaking about the human age. You may say, for example, humans can be only till, let's say, 150, but I can say age can be 22.1 days as well. So this is a continuous value, if you understand my point. So here if I write it mathematically, so I mean there is a function which may take some real values and it may have any features. This is the data point basically. If I say this is a data point, the function by function, like there is definition of the function, but mathematically just think it as a machine. This is the machine basically. It takes some input, gives an output. So I have a function which takes data points. Data point has n features, and what it gives a real number back. It gives some real number, for example -infinity to infinity, anything. Mathematically, this is what I mean by a regression problem. This is what is regression. Okay, so first thing that we dealt was classification, and then we saw classification with the missing inputs. Then we saw regression. By regression, I meant that there can be infinite number of classes. By infinite, I mean it can take any real value. So that's why I wrote a mathematical function right here, and which says I have a machine, let's say a function, which takes some data point, which has n features. All these features are real valued features. Then by using that function, I'll implement that function and I'll get a real number value. Example is temperature, prediction of temperature. So I'll get a real number value, for example, some 22.3 degrees centigrade, some 28.9 degrees centigrade, something like that. So this is what is called as regression.